study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
The best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Mornings have a rhythm. You can hear it, feel it. And at Quaker, we fuel it. With 100% whole grain oats and a good source of fiber in every bowl, helping you turn that rhythm into your soundtrack for a great day. Fuel to start whatever's next. Quaker, official sponsor of FIFA World Cup 26.
Let's go! Let's go!
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey. How are you today, Lauren?
Fantastic. It's a beautiful day. Sun is shining. You?
It's actually kind of gray and overcast here in the woods of New Hampshire. In fact, it has rained so much between now, early April and now. I sometimes wonder if Nancy very quietly moved us to Seattle and didn't tell me.
Listen to this too. Like, speaking of rain, so we're getting ready to go on our first adult trip to Florida next week, Eric and I. And I saw somebody on Facebook last night that said, should I cancel my trip for next week the same time as we're going to be there because of the tropical rains? And the internet all came together, and it was a collective no, it's Florida and it's going. We desperately need rain, and we're thrilled when we get it. So bring your Crocs and have a great time.
Oh, okay. Well, I did not know that Florida was dealing with a drought. We've actually, that's the other thing. New Hampshire, same thing. We've been dealing with a drought for the past year or so. So we need this rain. It's just, I just don't want to, I have to carry a canoe with me everywhere I go.
I get it. All right. Well, let's jump into today's episode because we've got a lot going on. So we're going to talk about Disney turning another merch launch into a ticketed pop-up experience. We've been talking about the Disney store. Trader Sam's celebrating 15 years with a party and a new collectible mug. And Pizza Planet is coming to life ahead of Toy Story 5. Plus, new movie collectibles hit the theater, and Grogu gets his own limited edition snack. It's so exciting. And then coming up on today's feature, Jim is going to be looking at Disney's newly reimagined Animation Courtyard and its history, and maybe a chapter that got left out of the story.
There we go.
Yeah. But before we jump in, a quick thank you for listening. We really do appreciate you being here. Episode 102. Whoop, whoop. And if you want to see us keep going, we really wish that you could go over, leave us a quick rating or review, and let us know what you want to see or hear on a future episode.
Got it. We shall also probably take a moment here to thank our sponsor. And this episode, of course, is of I Want That Too, is brought to you by our friends at UnlockMagic.com, your go-to source for great deals on Disney and Universal tickets. So if a 2026 park trip is now on your radar for the summer, head on over to unlockmagic.com and let their team help make your next vacation just a little bit more magical. Okay, so moving into the news of the week, and we got a heads up about the UU boutiques from a listener. Is that correct?
Yes, and I wanted to include this. So thank you, Claudia from the UK, for sending this along for us to look at. But Disney's doing this new pop-up experience in London, centered around these Disney, their UU collectibles. I had never heard of UUs before Claudia sent the email. So I went down the rabbit hole with this because I'm like, where did they come from? They kind of look like I mean, we haven't done our Labubu talk in a long time.
It's so interesting you bring that up because the other day I was in Target and I was walking past where they have all of the accessories for the Apple products. And, there in a clear plastic cage were a bunch of Disney-inspired Labubu-like creatures. So they're out there, but let's talk about these things from the UK.
Yeah. So, and this is also what I don't understand is there are a lot of these little similar things, and we've seen several come from Asia. But these UUs are getting their own experience. So it's kind of like the Disney store with this pop-up concept. So rather than just putting a new product on the shelves, Disney is creating this 3-day Soho pop-up where fans have to get tickets in advance, but the tickets are free. And then they get early access to the collectibles, and they're going to have blind box unboxings, and they're going to get to access the products before they officially launch. So these little buggers, if you're not familiar, they are Disney characters, and they're about the size of a Labubu, but they're wearing animal clothes.
Yeah.
So the two that they featured is Pooh in what looks to be like a fox costume, and then Angel from Lilo and Stitch as a sheep.
Yeah, they're very cute. I mean, it's cute on cute, so to speak, as opposed to the Labubu is more cute on creepy. But yeah, and do we know how many other characters are in the line, or?
So from what I could tell, as far back, the first thing that was ever talked about was in the fall of last year about the UUs. And there was they were in a couple different shops in London earlier this year, but they didn't make a big spectacle out of it. And so they come 8 at a time, and I believe 7 are standard, and then there's a mystery character. But for for this one, they're only using these 2 in the marketing. So I'm how can you do a full-fledged pop-up boutique, even if they say they just had 8 of these? I am so curious, what they could have in this space. And I told you, they're going to be doing the unboxings, and they're going to have these interactive character reveals, and they're going to have photo booths and stuff. And there's going to be UU-inspired desserts. So they're really trying to make it an experience. But the interesting thing is that this is following several recent Disney pop-ups in London. So this must be a worldwide kind of focus, because it, allows them to test things out without all the risk. But they just did one for Mandalorian and Grogu and Pooh. So I will be so interested to hear how this goes. So as we know more, we'll keep you posted.
Okay, all right. Appreciate the info, and thanks again for Claudia to making us aware of this. Pivoting now back stateside, we have some news for Tiki enthusiasts. And has it really been 15 years since Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar debuted?
Yes. So friend of the show, Ashley, we were messaging, and she is a giant Tiki collector. I had no idea. And she was telling me that it was the 15-year anniversary of Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar out in California at the Disneyland Resort, right?
Yeah, right there at the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah. And so from what I understand, they had a fairly large refurbishment that was happening
Oh.
And so this was like a big deal that they were opening back up with this celebration. They had like new food and beverage offerings. But what she was really excited about was this new Tiki mug, that this one was a hyena to celebrate the 15th anniversary. And initially I was like, a hyena, like that's weird for a tiki bar, right?
Well, but again, the thing of Trader Sam's is that ties in with the mythology of the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland. And remember,
Yes.
there is that scene on the Jungle Cruise where you get to see the laughing hyena. So.
Yes, and that's what, so they had, as a part of this special celebration, you could meet the Imagineer that did the design. His name was Rich Kirkhoff. Hopefully I didn't mess that up. If so, sorry, Rich. But he did mention that it was based on the Jungle Cruise as well as Walt's loyal companion. Is that bad too? Like what is that?
Excuse me, Walt's loyal companion?
That's what it says. I'm just reading this. Let me, I'm going to read it exactly. It says,
Okay.
In designing this anniversary mug, Rich found inspiration from a photo of Walt Disney with the hyena at the Jungle Cruise, as well as his loyal companion, Batu.
Okay.
I'm reading the sign from the event. I don't know.
Okay.
But anyways, we know that it's Jungle Cruise, and you could meet him and get things signed. And there's a cute picture of like some of the theming that they did. And if you're not familiar with this, so Disney highlighted the history and the backstory of Trader Sam's, including the connection to the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, like the mythology behind that.
Yeah, this is, something that they've sort of backfilled over the years with the notion that Trader Sam's, the Jungle Cruise, and that are not only tied to the Adventures Club at Walt Disney World, they're also tied to Harrison Hightower, the gentleman who is behind the version of the Tower of Terror at Tokyo Disney Seas. It's all a thing, Laura.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are communities online. I've seen Facebook groups like dedicated to this. So it is like a big thing. I also didn't realize there were such huge like Tiki collectors outside of Disney. And, if you're a new listener to I Want That Too, one of our first 10 episodes was the history of these Tiki mugs and the Tiki situation. But anyway, so they did have a new anniversary menu that was expanded. So this was quite the experience. I don't know if you could still get your hands on any of these limited edition Tiki mugs, but might be worth checking her out.
No, absolutely. The other thing I think intrigues me here is that, as part of this refurbishment, evidently Trader Sam also expanded its food offerings. We can now get breakfast at Trader Sam. That's a thing with tropical pancakes?
Listen, it makes sense if you're like walking, like you're staying there and you're walking by the establishment. And we did have like a brunch situation last time we stayed there. So good on them for opening it up. Like, it's really cute.
Okay. I wonder if I can get an adult beverage with my pancake. I mean, what is the rule about drinking? The sun is always over the yardarm somewhere, right?
Yes. And speaking of eating, I think that's going to take us to our next story because we love to talk about food around these parts. So, Jim, you had mentioned, or I had mentioned on a previous show that Papa John's was going to be partnering. Yeah, right? Remember?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about like what that partnership was?
Yeah. Okay. So, what's worth noting here is that Papa John's became the official pizza partner for Toy Story 5, which again, remember, is finally arriving in theaters later this month. And what was kind of interesting is you shared an image of the pizza Planet branded packaging that Papa John's is going to be using, which kind of exploded online, didn't it?
Oh my gosh, Jim. Like, I hate to keep talking about TikTok, but, I'm on a journey here. So I did this little video because the day that it came out, I went to try it out. And they have 3 personal pan pizzas. That's the whole, like, collaboration. And they come in these little branded boxes. And I did want to say what the pizzas are. So there was Reach for the Pie. There was Space Ranger Roni, Sheriff's Roundup. And then they had this special like Rootin' Tootin' Ranch. And this video went insane. I think it has almost like 200,000 views. Yeah,
cow.
so much so that Papa John's actually commented on the video. And what I thought was crazy was, so Papa John's comments, and it has like 300 likes, but somebody in the thread commented and was like, I wish they picked a better pizza partner to be rolling out Pizza Planet with. And it had 400 likes, more than the Papa John's comment. So I have to ask you, Jim, I mean, when Disney was picking their Pizza Planet Toy Story 5 partner, do you think Papa John's was the right one, or do you think there would have been a better partner?
Here's the thing. It's like, when you're looking for a promotional partner, what's interesting out in California, for example, is they have burger religion out there. In fact, I want to say when we took, when you and Eric, joined Angela and I out in California for D23 a year or so ago, I mean, we made sure to trot Eric and Lauren around to, like, for example, In-N-Out.
It was so great.
But in the same way that there are burger aficionados, there are pizza aficionados, and the whole notion of, there were people like Papa John's. I barely call that pizza, but at the same time, if you go to Chicago and you dare to order not deep dish, there are people who will excommunicate you. I mean, there are people who have very strong opinions about pizza. On the other hand, I think from Disney and Pixar's side of the fence, they were looking at the number of Papa John's that there are out there in the world that, could then, help promote Toy Story 5, and were willing to be an active promotional partner. So, there are various factors in these sorts of decisions.
Yes, and honestly, Papa John's, I was reading the press release that they put out, and they said that this is one of the largest partnerships that Papa John's has ever had as far as like the collaboration goes. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And then they took it a step further. And by the way, I do have to mention that in some parts of the country, this is not rolling out until June 1st. So, like, by the time this drops, it should be out everywhere. And somebody commented and said that their Papa John's told them they had to go through all their regular boxes first before they started using the Toy Story one. It's funny. Yeah.
Well, that's an individual franchisee that's making that decision. That I have to burn through the inventory I have here before I break into the special stuff. So, in a situation like that, there's probably another Papa John's, 5 or 6 miles away. Head on over there.
Yes, and so they've made a big deal. They also, I think it was out in California, they were doing these pop-ups, like Pizza Planet kind of pop-ups, and it like pulls together like elements from the movie like location, and it gave fans an opportunity like with photo ops and decor and interactive activities. Man, like pop-ups just must be the thing. But Toy Story 5, I mean, it's like Zootopia. If you don't know that that's coming out in June, like you're living under a rock, because it's literally everywhere.
Oh God, yes. And what was kind of interesting, we're about to talk about, the various movie chains and what they'll be offering for Toy Story 5 collectibles. But this past week, Nancy and I went to our local AMC to catch The Mandalorian and Grogu Grogu and got to see all of the stuff that they had laid out there. And little anecdotal story here, Lauren. Evidently the big thing for Mandalorian Grogu was they had at the Atta, the walker, they had a popcorn bucket shaped like that, that stood 2.5 feet tall, that went for $80.80. And it went clean the day the movie opened. They sold all of them. On the other hand, they had when we visited, they still had a good number of the Grogu flyer popcorn buckets, where it's Grogu in his little egg-shaped flying machine. And those were going for $54. But we watched people buying them and happily carrying them out of the theater that afternoon. So it just first they have to burn through the Mandalorian Grogu stuff, but then let's talk about these Toy Story items and which of the different chains will have what.
Yeah, so but I guess before we do that, did this just start with The Devil Wears Prada with the merch in the theaters? Because I feel like this is coming out hot and heavy. I remember there was a collectible cup or something like that when Toy Story had their anniversary last year. But could they have just had so much success with Devil Wears Prada now that this is the treatment for all of the movies?
We have been seeing, the amount of merch creep up. In fact, just to circle back to those different popcorn buckets for Mandalorian and Grogu, the notion was that, we can do popcorn buckets at two different price points, and we can get the fan that, is very into Star Wars, or the casual. Now, what was kind of interesting is they also had, for example, a Mandalorian and Grogu drinking, a themed drink cup. But you had, in that situation, Lauren, you had your choice between 3 different Grogu sculpts that could be screwed into the top of your drink. I want to say there was one of Grogu with food, and then there was one with Grogu using the Force, and then finally, Grogu using a telescope. And the notion was that, if you're a completist, you can come back and buy all 3, of these sculpts. And I just get the sense that this is the approach now that Disney's taking, with the notion of why have one popcorn bucket and one specific drink cup when you can create, an opportunity for somebody to circle back, 2 and 3 different times to effectively buy yet another piece of merch.
Right. And now I just think that 20 years ago that Disney just wanted you to buy the ticket, right? And I talked about how on the earnings call, it was interactive or immersive experience. But now they want you to buy the ticket. They want you to get your collector, cup and your popcorn bucket, and then take a picture of yourself there and post it on social media. You've done the thing. So it's more of this full circle, making it, more special than just going to the movie to see a film.
Yeah, and more to the point, to have something to take home. In fact, that was the oddest thing, is that, that the AMC literally has a little store that's sort of like at the Emporium at Disney, where you have to sort of walk past various items to get to where you can order your popcorn and your soda. And, I just stood there and looking at okay, there's the Mandalorian Grogu commemorative blanket. So evidently, I'm supposed to buy this, go into the theater, and then fall asleep while I'm watching the movie, and then come back and buy another ticket.
Okay, so before I get into this merch, I do have to say that you have to remember that this is not like in every theater. So in my market, I have two options, and one is a marquee, which is regionally owned, and the other is a golden ticket, which is also regionally owned. So what I'm about to talk about, like with Toy Story at least, Cinemark, AMC, and Regal all have different lines of merch. So I just want to be clear that like it's not all the same everywhere. And I think that like Toy Story is getting a huge treatment. So the first one up is Cinemark, and they have 6 exclusive items. They have a Woody hat popcorn tin, which looks like a regular tin on the bottom, and the lid is a hat. Yeah. So they have these like combo deals that have like a popcorn tin with Jessie, and then they get these look like plastic cups, and then they have the 20-ounce tumbler with the dome lid with the characters on the top. They also have a blanket because apparently you need to get cozy in the movie theater. The one that I was really excited about was actually AMC. So maybe you can, if you're going to, I know you'll see Toy Story 5, but like let me know if they have it. So this Buzz Lightyear popcorn bucket, it looks like the box. If you were to buy like a Buzz Lightyear figure, it's
okay.
like it look like I'm wondering if this is. It has to be plastic, right? But it looks like you could see Buzz Lightyear's little head in the background, but like the popcorn is around it. Yeah, so it looks like Buzz Lightyear is like in the box. So that's really cool. And then that one also had a Pixar blind box combo that includes a small popcorn, a drink, a mystery pin, and a mystery topper. And then they also this says that AMC is going to distribute a special Loracana Buzz Lightyear trading card at the Dolby Cinema showings on June 18th to the 21st. Got to get those cards in there.
There we go. Well, and the interesting thing is that, look cold-bloodedly at that. That June 18th is the Thursday night previews, and that will take you all the way through the 21st is, the Sunday. So in order, if you want your special Lorcana Buzz Lightyear trading card, you have to go for the opening weekend of Toy Story 5, which, by the way, box office projections came out this past week. And at this point, it looks like they're going to have a franchise, the best ever opening for the franchise, projected, 160 in North America alone? So, yeah.
I mean, but I think about you and I mean, doing this podcast, we've been talking about it for the last year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. And I did go see Mandalorian and Grogu as well this week. I didn't have any merch in my theater, but you know you're not supposed to take food and drink in. But if I was going to stick something in my pocket to snack on while I was watching the movie, this next one, I had to include it, and it's a real quick. The Nilla wafers, which now are just Nilla wafers, they teamed up with Grogu for a limited edition Nilla Nummies cookie release. Did you see these, Jim?
I did not. Okay, but my question is, they're not blue, are they?
They're blue. They're literally in the movie, those blue cookies.
Okay.
Well, the cookies came in that like scene, right, with the kids in the school. And then the cookies showed up again. The blue cookies showed up again in the movie, correct?
They did. Holy cow. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And so now you can get the blue cookies. And I believe they're already out. Someone posted them on Facebook, and I just had to tell you, and I must find them and try them because I am in my baby or my Grogu collector era. I'm like starting this little shrine. It's next to my computer. You can't see it, but I am really, really like feeling Grogu right now. So much so, I was in Hallmark the other day, and they have like a huge Star Wars line, and they had a lot of good Grogu Mandalorian stuff. coming up for Father's Day. And a huge Jabba the Hutt calendar. It was so cool. One of those ones where you change the blocks with the numbers. But anywho, they gave me the dream book for 2026 because I think they're taking their pre-orders now for the ornaments for the holiday season. And they had like 2 pages of Star Wars, Mandalorian, Grogu ornaments.
Okay.
So fun fact there. Cookies and ornaments.
Okay, well, just a couple of additional, things. Remember, Burger King, as part of its Mandalorian and Grogu, actually does the blue cookie shake. So I wonder if, whatever's the topping for that thing. I wonder if that's ground up blue vanilla wafers. And by the way, thanks for the heads up about the dream book. Tomorrow, after I drop Nancy off to teach her water aerobics class, I'll head to our local Hallmark store and go get myself a copy of that book.
Yes, and they had a bunch of Disney ornaments for 75% off at our local Hallmark.
Wow. Okay. Well,
so check that. Go way in the back to the clearance. You might find yourself a winner.
Right.
They had a ton of Haunted Mansion.
All right. Well, and speaking of Disney theme park attractions, when Lauren and I get back from this break, we're going to talk about the Animation Courtyard area that just opened at Disney's Hollywood Studios. But before we do that, there's this.
This is what everyone's talking about.
Everything's on the table.
This is what champions come to take. This is what everyone came to see.
And the slam!
No do-overs. No second chances. No more Mr. Nice Guy. This is winner take all. The NBA Finals continue on ABC and the ESPN app.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man, an 8-episode series, now streaming on Disney+.
A superhero remake, not exactly what we'd expect from an Oscar-winning director.
Action! Simon Williams, audition for Wonder Man.
I'm gonna need you to sign this, assuming you don't have superpowers.
I'll never work again if anyone found out.
My lips are sealed.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man. All 8 episodes now streaming, only on Disney+.
And we're back. Okay, Lauren, I have to ask, have you seen any of the imagery from the Animation Courtyard at Disney's Hollywood Studios? I want to say it opened on May 20th.
Yes, and I saw the map yesterday. It looks like something that Jim Schul would have created. It's really, really cool. But yes, I've seen the images and people talking about it. And are all of the areas open?
Well, no. Actually, remember, the conceit of the Animation Courtyard is this is sort of the lobby for the actual Magic of Disney Animation attraction, which was announced in July of last year. That's not actually due to open till later this summer, potentially earlier this fall. I mean, in fact, what's kind of interesting right now is you can walk into the building, you can go under the giant Sorcerer Mickey hat, but the queue space in there right now is being used as stroller parking.
Okay. Did you see like the Mary Blair inspired? It's a playground. So all of that is opening later.
Yeah.
And then the baby center and all the.
Yeah, I mean, what's kind of intriguing is that they're throwing open what they have available, and it's now a lovely green space. Now, mind you, the grass is largely artificial turf, but the conceit is that they've taken this corner of the studio and changed it into an amalgam of the Disney Studio campus complex in Burbank, as well as the Roy E. Disney Feature Animation Building, which, by the way, is located across the street from the Disney lot in Burbank, on the other side of Riverside Drive. But again, just want to stress here that these are two very different pieces of the Disney studio complex from two entirely different eras of the company's history, Lauren. I mean, for example, the original 51-acre studio in Burbank, that first opened for business in 1940 and was largely built with money that Walt had made when Snow White was first released to theaters in February of 1937. Whereas the Roy E. Disney Feature Animation Building, that 240,000 square foot structure, which was designed by master architect Robert A.M. Stern, I mean, that didn't even begin construction till 92. And if we're being completely honest here, it wasn't until Beauty and the Beast became the first ever feature-length animated film to win a to be nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. That, by the way, happened in early '92. This was when Michael Eisner decided, okay, let's build a showplace for the animators. So again, just to recap. Disney's taken these two things, the campus-like complex that Disney has in Burbank, and the Roy E. Disney building, which is across the street from the studio, and merged these two things, which were made more than 50 years apart, and mushed them together down in Florida, and essentially telling visitors to Disney's Hollywood studios, like, look what we have recreated for you, a faithful recreation of what Disney's got out in California. So, by the way, I have to ask, did you get to see, when it came out in 2023, the Once Upon a Studio animated live-action short thing?
Yes, yes. So well done.
Yeah, now, but what was kind of interesting about that is it was created to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio. And by the way, Lauren, that was the original name of the operation when Walt and Roy first set up the company in the back of a realty office on 4651 Kingswell Avenue in Los Angeles back October 16th, 1923. That's what the company was called, the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio. And that name sticks till 1926. At that point, it's Roy who actually supposedly suggested, let's change it to Walt Disney Studios. It's because you're the face of the studio, whereas I'm the business manager. I'm the behind the scenes guy who handles the contracts and the money. And if we're being honest, Walt wasn't animating. Walt was directing. It was Iwerks who was doing all of the animation back then. By the way, Lauren, 1926, 100 years ago, very significant year for the Disney Studios. It was in January of that year that Walt and Roy officially outgrew that back office space on Kingswell Avenue, and they then moved their animation operation up to 2719 Hyperion Avenue. That's in the Silver Lake section of Los Angeles, and they then stayed there for the next 14 years. And by the way, there's a sign that's been painted on the side of the Studio Theater building that looks into the new Animation Courtyard. This is that building at Disney Hollywood Studios where The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure show, was presented.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a nod to the large neon sign that used to stand over the entrance of Disney Studios. Again, the version that was up on Hyperion Avenue. But again, what Disney's done here in the Animation Courtyard is created, a tribute to, at least three of the company's animation operations. Again, we've got the Disney Studios thing that was up on Hyperion Avenue from 1926 to 1940, and then we have the company's campus-like complex in Burbank, which is where the animators operated from 1940 to 1986. And now we get to a part of the story that Disney doesn't necessarily like to talk about, Lauren, how in the mid to late 80s, Disney actually threw the animators off the Disney lot?
Is this like the Waking Sleeping Beauty era?
Yes, there we go. There we go. They moved them into a bunch of dilapidated warehouses one town over in Glendale. In fact, they were right across the street from where the Imagineers have all of their dilapidated warehouses on Flower Street. And what's kind of interesting is it's from here, Lauren, from February of 86 through December of 94, where, again, they're in crummy warehouses, but this is when some of the very best hand-drawn features that Disney ever produced, and in fact, a lot of people call this the second golden age of Disney animation, this is where they were churned out. I mean, we're talking The Great Mouse Detective, July of 86, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, June of 88, The Little Mermaid, November of 89, Beauty and the Beast, November of 91, then Aladdin, November of 92, and finally Lion King in June of 1994. And there were also some lesser Disney animated films and featurettes made during the same time, same place. Oliver and Company, November of 88, Rescue is Down Under, November of 90, and then Mickey Mouse in The Prince of the Pauper, November of 90. And Lauren, you know, as to why that happened when they were crammed into dilapidated warehouses, there's always the talk about how artists do some of their best work when they're starving and they're working in a cold, dark garret. So you know, there's just something about artists working in less than ideal circumstances. And it is worth pointing out that the animated features that Disney Studio produced right after they moved into that brand new building that was purposely built for them on the other side of Riverside Drive, and we're talking Pocahontas in June of 95, Hunchback of Notre Dame in June of 96, and Hercules in June of 97, those three did not do nearly as well as at the box office as the features that preceded them.
Because they're too comfortable?
Yeah. And by the way, it wasn't until Mulan debuted in June of 98 that this box office trend of declining ticket sales for Disney's newest animated features was turned around. And it's important to point out that that animated feature was actually produced at the company's Florida production facility, the one that was built as part of the MGM Studio theme park. But again, that doesn't necessarily count because it was his own separate thing, produced by a super talented group of artists and animators who were largely working on their own down in Orlando. And we'll talk more about Walt Disney Feature Animation Florida in a moment. But first, this.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Go further with the American Express Business Gold Card. Earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels when you book through AmexTravel.com. Whether your destination is a business conference or a client meeting, your purchases will help you earn more points for future trips. Experience more on your travels with Amex Business Gold. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
And we're back. All right, Lauren, before we continue with the story, I do want to stress that before we continue with the feature for this week's edition, I want that too, that I honestly have nothing against Once Upon a Studio, that live action animated short that, by the way, had its world premiere at Annecy, the Annecy International Film Festival back in June of 2023, and then went into wide release in October of that same year, 2023, just in time for the official 100th anniversary of the founding of the Disney company. And again, just for the record, found this 9-minute long film, written and directed by Dan Abraham and Trent Corey, to be heartfelt, charming. If I'm being completely honest there, I felt that Once Upon a Studio deserved some more professional recognition. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of pissed that when this animated live-action film didn't get an Oscar nomination in either category that it qualified for, Best Animated Short and Best Live-Action Short. And by the way, when I asked friends who work at the Motion Picture Academy of Arts and Sciences, what they told me was, in the case of Once Upon a Studio, Lauren, that this Disney-produced film basically fell through the cracks during the 2023-2024 award season because it didn't clearly fit in either nomination category.
Yeah.
Oh, but so, bring this full circle. Was I upset when I learned July of last year that the Imagineers were going to be using Once Upon a Studio as the inspiration to reimagine this corner of Disney Hollywood Studio? Absolutely not. But, Lauren, what did and still does bother me about this still largely under construction project, and again, want to stress, the indoor portion of the magic of Disney animation won't be opening to the public till later this summer, early this fall. And all that's open right now largely is the outdoor portion, the Animation Courtyard. It's that this space at Disney Hollywood Studio has been turned into a tribute to the company's animation operation out in Southern California, which conveniently ignores the fact that from March of 1989 through January of 2004, and that's nearly 15 years, Lauren, this same space was home to Walt Disney Feature Animation Florida. And at its height, 260 people worked at the studio. They initially contributed significant portions to Beauty and the Beast. They did the Killed the Beast number in that November 91 release. Likewise, The Lion King, they did the Just Can't Wait to Be King number in that film, and a couple of very well-received Roger Rabbit shorts, Roller Coaster Rabbit, June of 90, Trail Mix-Up, March of 93. But it was after that, Lauren, where they started making full-length animated features all on their own. We got Mulan in June of 1998. We got the original hand-drawn version of Lilo and Stitch back in June of 2002. And then finally, Brother Bear in October of 2003. And Walt Disney Animation Florida was working on what looked like a really innovative hand-drawn CG film. It went by a number of different names, Lauren. My Peoples, Angel and Her No Good Sister, A Few Good Ghosts, would have featured a vocal cast that included Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, and Hal Holbrook. And this was going on in late 2003, early 2004, when Disney got on a downsizing kick and not only shut down the animation studio they had in Florida, but also the one that they had over in France. Likewise, the Australia facility shut down the Japan thing as well, and essentially moved the entire operation back to Burbank, and which now brings us to the whole reason that I put together this feature for this week's edition of I Want That Too. And this past week, the Disney Parks blog released a map of what the interior of the Magic of Disney Animation attraction is supposed to look like, again, when it finally opens to the public either later this summer or early this fall. And the map does include a few nods to projects that were produced at, Disney's Hollywood studio back in the day. I mean, for example, you can see John Henry, and he was the star of the short that Disney legend Mark Henn directed, had produced down there in Florida, that was then released to theaters back in October of 2000. And on a personal note, Nancy and I had a number of friends who worked at Walt Disney Feature Animation Florida, and it genuinely hurt when this place got its plug pulled in the late winter, early spring of 2004. And a lot of those talented people then got scattered to the four winds. And look, I know this thing happens in the animation industry all the time. I mean, take, for example, what happened to Blue Sky Studio. That shut down in April 2021 after Disney acquired certain film and television assets from 20th Century Fox. And it's just that, well, Lauren, when I see all of the care and attention to detail that's going into the creation of the Animation Courtyard at Disney's Hollywood studio down in Florida and making this corner of that theme park into a tribute to what Disney Studios has out in California, I can't help but think that, Disney already had a terrific animation studio down in Florida, one that the company then decided to close in 2004. So I'm just close on this note that I hope that when the interior portion of the magic of Disney animation finally opens, again, later this summer, early this fall, I hope once we all get into that space, we then see all sorts of Easter eggs, not to mention flat out tributes of size to the animated features and shorts that were made at Disney Animation Studios, Florida. Because if there aren't a whole bunch of those, I know of at least one fat man who lives in the woods of southern New Hampshire who's going to be very, very disappointed. So, all right. So, that's me now climbing off of my soapbox. Sorry about that, folks.
Listen, I bet you a lot of people don't even know that there was an animation studio in Florida.
Yeah, and that is kind of sad because they did great work. In fact, I have always argued that, if Disney had done the smart thing, which is kept Florida up and running and did just hand-drawn films there, but then changed their California operation over to CG, I would imagine Florida would still be up and running, and more to the point, they'd still be doing great work.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that too. And maybe someone's listening. Maybe they'll put a little nod inside. But on that note, I do think it's time we close up shop here today.
Okay. And by the way, folks, if you want to keep up on everything that's happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, please follow us on social media.
Yes. And if you have a question or an idea for a future episode, we absolutely love to hear from you. So shoot us a message. Jim is at jimhillmedia.com, and I'm at laurenherthey.com. That does it for today's show. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.